All right, everyone. Ready for a real head-scratcher today?
Yeah.
We're diving into geometry, but not the one that probably gave you flashbacks to high school.
Yeah, we're going way beyond just triangles and proofs this time.
Exactly. Remember Euclid. Lines, angles, axioms, all that
Oh,
jazz.
yeah, Euclid's Elements, the OG geometry Bible, right?
Pretty much. It's been the way to understand geometry for centuries. But we found this source that really digs into it, and honestly, it's kind of controversial.
Yeah, they make this really bold claim calling Euclidean geometry a bureaucratic system imposed on truth.
Seriously, a bureaucratic system, that's pretty intense. Before we even get into that, though, can you give us a quick refresher?
Yeah.
What is Euclidean geometry at its core?
Okay, so imagine Euclid, right? He wasn't the one who came up with like circles or anything, but he took all this existing knowledge about shapes and space and said, let's get organized.
Makes sense. Put it all in order.
Right. And that's what he did. He started with these super basic assumptions, like the idea that a line can be infinitely long.
Okay, so like the ground rules, the stuff everyone just accepts as true.
Exactly. Those are his axioms or postulates. From those simple starting points, he used logic, pure deduction, to build up everything else. Lines, angles, all the relationships between them.
So he's like the architect of this whole system, even if he didn't make the bricks themselves.
Exactly. And for centuries, it's been like the gold standard. But our sources like, hold on a minute, this rigid structure, it comes with a cost.
That's where the bureaucracy thing comes in.
Yeah, they're saying this laser focus on axioms and deductive reasoning, it's like filling out endless forms.
It kind of sucks the creativity right out of it.
Yeah. Imagine being so focused on following the rule book that you never actually stop to wonder or experiment or just see what happens if you try something different.
It's like, yeah, you might get the right answer, but what if there's a more elegant solution, a more intuitive one that you're just missing?
And that's what this source is getting at. They even go as far as saying that this approach can be damaging to self-esteem, leading to a dry, dead region when it comes to new discoveries.
Whoa, that's pretty harsh. They're basically saying Euclid killed the joy of discovery.
I mean, it's strong language for sure, and it's just one perspective. But think about it. Have you ever felt stuck on a problem, like you're hitting a wall because you're so focused on one way of solving it?
Oh, absolutely, especially with math.
It's like that classic example of the experiment where they give chimps a bunch of crates and a banana hanging from the ceiling.
Oh, right. The chimps have to figure out how to stack the crates to reach the banana.
Exactly. Now, if we only taught geometry like, here's the formula for calculating the height of a stack of crates, would those chimps ever figure it out? They're not using formulas. They're experimenting using their intuition, and that's kind of what this source is advocating for.
That's a good point. This makes me think about Gödel's incompleteness theorem, right? Didn't he basically prove that there are limits even to math itself?
You're exactly right. Gödel threw a real wrench in the works. What he basically showed is that no matter how complete your set of axioms, no matter how perfect your system, there are always going to be truths that you can't prove using just those rules.
So even math has its blind spots.
It's like saying, even the best map can't perfectly capture every single detail of the world. There's always more to explore beyond the edges.
Wow. So if even math has these limitations, why are we still so stuck on rigid systems, especially in something like geometry?
I mean, it makes sense in a way. Euclid's system was groundbreaking, incredibly influential. And there's a certain elegance to a well-defined system, right? Everything neat and tidy.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it's easier to teach that way. Here's the formula, plug in the numbers, get the answer.
Exactly. But our source argues there's another way, one that taps into a different kind of understanding.
Okay, I gotta ask, what's the alternative then? If not Euclid's way, then what?
The source calls it the mental experimental method, and it's all about engaging your imagination, conducting thought experiments. Instead of just crunching numbers, you're picturing shapes in your mind, rotating them, fitting them together, seeing how they interact.
So kind of like how I rearrange my furniture in my head before actually moving anything. I do that all the time.
Exactly. Or think about it like trying to pack a suitcase. Are you meticulously measuring each item? Probably not. You're more likely visualizing how things will fit together best.
And that's the mental experimental method in action. That's wild. And you know what's even wilder?
What's that?
It lines up with how a lot of early mathematicians actually made their biggest breakthroughs. They were playing with ideas, sketching diagrams, building models.
It wasn't just sitting around pondering axioms. They were getting their hands dirty, experimenting.
So are we saying ditch the proofs and just go with our gut?
Well, not quite. The source isn't saying to abandon proof entirely. It's more like saying proof isn't the only way of knowing.
Because seeing it for yourself, that aha moment, that's powerful too, right?
Exactly. It's like a difference between reading about a place and actually traveling there. The experience itself brings a new level of understanding.
This is so interesting. So to wrap things up, what they're really saying is don't just take our word for it. Experiment, explore, see what you discover.
And maybe, just maybe, by loosening up a little, we might open ourselves up to even more groundbreaking insights than we can imagine.
So as we end this deep dive, it really begs the question, could our obsession with rigid systems actually be holding us back? Are we so busy following the rules that we're missing out on those aha moments, the true breakthroughs? And honestly, think about it. Does this mental experimental method resonate with how you learn best? Food for thought.